The purpose of this video is to share with you folks what I went through, the logic and the decision process behind selecting posts and railing that were solid and didn't have ugly escutcheons on the end and wouldn't rattle in the wind and look like crap. There's our guard dog. So I don't have a good camera. I'm not a good carpenter. I'm not a carpenter, period. So be nice. Hopefully this helps you in your journey. So
rotating the other way.
the Turncraft Poly Classic porch post is a pretty good representation, I would say, of I think the wooden one here is an HB&G. So to measure the height of the existing posts, I scrounged through the scrap bin and came up with this threaded rod, half-inch threaded rod, screwed into, well, with a pair of nuts here to set the height into a piece of copper tubing, so just or copper pipe. So I adjusted the nuts to get a snug match up at the top, and then take the bar down and measure its overall length. I'm sure a talented or even modestly talented carpenter could bend the measuring tape and do the same job, but I'm not a modestly talented carpenter, so there it is. And with this rig I can measure to within a 32nd of an inch. Each post, there's 6 posts on this project, and each post has its own length and they're not all the same. So that's part of the fabrication process for these posts. The vinyl sleeve is the net length. We took off about 3/32 overall to allow for expansion. We don't know what the right number is, but that's what we're using. And the steel is cut in a different saw with an abrasive blade, and the steel is, the thickness is equal to the vinyl minus the polycarbonate and minus the hat section brackets at the top and the bottom. For locating the hat section bracket on top, we took the witness mark of the existing posts, draw an X across it, put a screw eye in there to hang the plumb bob, or just have the assistant hold the plumb bob string in the center of the X. I haven't drawn this X yet, but then that'll come down and the plumb bob we'll put that in the center of the little drill template, and then use the green chalk shot thing to mark the holes. So the technique we're using is to use 3 different floor jack or scissors jacks. These are all from cars that have been junked over the years, but this way we don't run the risk of over torquing or over stressing the beam. We can sort of raise one end of the porch at a time. There's 3 reasons I chose the Turncraft Poly Classic porch post. One is it does the best job, in my opinion, of replicating the look of a wooden post. Number 2, the idea of attaching the railing to a square post and sinking the screws right into the steel is very attractive compared to the other posts with a round tube. All the other brands have round tubes, which I see the drill bits skating off to the side and creating a mess. So I love the fact that it's a square tube. And the third compelling reason is the use of these inserts. Now, this is the top of the post where we've refitted the wood to be here. Normally, again, as supplied, it comes with the composite at the top and the wood in the middle. But we've reworked it to put the wood at the top. Anyway, solid inserts to be able to drive the screws into and grab the steel, we believe is the best approach. As supplied by Turncraft, the wooden blocks that we're putting at the ends show up here at the elevation where you would put your railing. So we relocated the wooden blocks to the end and took the composite blocks that are normally at the end and put them at the elevation of the railing. We also used liquid nails adhesive to adhere the composite blocks to the posts, to the core. As supplied from Turncraft, this foam block is the only thing that secures the elevation of the wooden blocks. Now it fits pretty tightly. This foam block fits pretty tightly into the sleeve, but it'll be better. It'll be more secure with liquid nails attaching the composite block and the foam block. Now the way you have to assemble it, you have to, or at least the way we've done it, is we stand the pole up, one guy on a ladder, lowering down the sleeve over top of the metal pole, and that's kind of the only way to get it in. And the last thing we do is install the insert the wooden blocks in from the end. So this is a rework that we did to better, we believe, secure. In other words, the wood will no longer be anywhere near moisture that could wick into the wooden blocks by coming down the screws for the railing. So, but yeah, as supplied from Turncraft, the composite blocks are at the ends where you can see them, and the wooden blocks are inside. Turncraft explained to me that they do the wooden blocks in the middle because they're if you're not going to penetrate the steel tubing with your screws, that you're better off attaching to wood rather than the composite. But we're using 2-inch long number 10 self-tapping screws, or rather self-drilling screws from McMaster-Carr. They're 18/8 stainless with a hardened tip. So we haven't installed them yet. Hopefully they go well. So the process here, sort of Three Stooges. We lift the vinyl sleeve up and lower it down over the pole, and that way keep everything centered. The bottom escutcheons are from RDI Barrett, and they're dremeled out to fit. That was kind of a tedious process. Unfortunately, the Turncraft PW05 escutcheons, they're very proud of them, I guess, because they go for $50 a piece or something crazy like that. Believe it or not, the end plates for the Dartmouth is the whole reason I chose the Dartmouth railing instead of the Hampton. And that's because the spacing is further apart. I believe that from here to here is 0.83 inches. And I'm pretty sure on the Hampton it's only 0.5. And the issue is spanning across the blocking edge pieces inside the perma post, the poly posts from Turncraft. I didn't want to be in between the corner brackets. I didn't want to be in between them and risk rolling them inside the post. So with this slightly wider spacing, I'll be able to go through the blocking, the corner edge pieces. Because I'm not an experienced carpenter, I splurged for the Dartmouth rail assembly fixture from Intex. And this is it when you assemble it. So it's slightly different than the Dartmouth or the Hampton, for which there is a video on Intex's website. There is not one presently for the Dartmouth. This chalk shot tool is a very clever little thing. You squeeze it and makes a very precise little dot, and use that in conjunction with the template. Works really well. The Turncraft posts come with these hat section brackets at the top and the bottom. And we made this template here to basically run a plumb bob down to the center hole and then line up the edge of the bracket with a square, and then mark the holes to be drilled. All right, doesn't get much better than that. Now, just to go one step better, I made these spacers out of some scrap polycarbonate. This is 6 millimeters or almost a 1/4 inch thick for the hat section bracket to sit on so that it won't corrode. And because I'm an obsessive compulsive dork, I also bought some zinc sheet from McMaster Carr. This is 30 thousandths thick, and cut them and drilled them so that now the zinc will sit underneath. So this is zinc plated, okay, and the zinc protects the steel, and this sheet of zinc will act as an anode, at least the anticipation is. I'm not a chemist, so be kind in the comments. And because I had some zinc sheet left over, and because the raw edge of the steel tube bears down on here, I figured I would use the remainder of the zinc to for the tube to set on. So it's a little bit of a sandwich here, but works well. We're using Bondo glass to seat the screws into the concrete, because after all, they're not taking any tension. There's nothing holding the post in this application. There's nothing holding the post vertically. So they're just locating it in X and Y. So we're putting the screws into Bondo glass. So this is what the cassette looks like when it's installed. You got polycarbonate, zinc, the hat section bracket, and then 2 other little zinc anodes. Hopefully they act as anodes to protect the bottom of the cut steel tube. If there's one useful lesson that I can share with folks from putting this setup together, is make sure you have an extra baluster or 2 to sacrifice to use as crush blocks. Either that, or plan ahead and cut your crush blocks. They give you crush blocks in the Intex package, but unfortunately, even with concrete, and this is a nice concrete job they did when they built this house, it's not going to be perfectly level, and you're going to get variations. So again, the solution is to cut the crush blocks to fit each time. And there's 2 ways to make that happen. One is you sacrifice a baluster at the altar, but but you can only do that if you have extra balusters, or at least one extra baluster. The other option is you take the factory crush blocks provided by Intex and then tailor them. Now that requires you to know what your that requires you, when you begin the job, to know what your longest crush block is going to be for the rest of the job. And so there's some peril there. So anyway, order extra balusters. They're available. You can buy the railing kit with no balusters, because obviously one of the Intex features is that you can put glass balusters in, or different kinds of wacky arrangements of balusters. So obviously a lot more ambitious than I was on this job. Going from one railing section to the other, we had a boo-boo, and the elevation of the rail from one side to the other was noticeably off, about 3/16 of an inch, which you don't send your daughter to the prom with dog shit on her dress. So we took it apart to check that. So I made a little checking, a little way to transfer that elevation around the corner and mark the line. And then a thing that we found useful is we created what Bernie Sanders would call a onesie. So the onesie is a very useful tool to gauge where you're going to end up when you put it together. And that's in conjunction with my adjustable crush block simulator made from a coupling nut and a couple socket head cap screws. I use it for adjusting the blades on the lawnmower, so that's why it says blade checking tool. Anyway, so yeah, this is how we're going to recover from that screw up. The screws, the best screws, by the way, in my opinion, are these. They're 2-inch number 10 self-threading with a blunt tip, not a self-drilling tip. Okay, we use self-drilling tips for most of the work, but I came around to liking these better. Bought these from McMaster-Carr. I'll put the part number somewhere for you. And you use a number 10 drill bit, or rather a number 21 drill bit, also from McMaster-Carr. And the advantage of using these blunt tips is that not only do I get the holding power from the steel tube, but I also get some holding power from the composite block. Maybe I'm being too picky, but I think that the Turncraft people could have done a better job of packaging the posts when they show up and they're all bumped and bruised just from the trip, because all they are, they're just covered in a thin cellophane. So yeah, that was I wasn't too happy about that, but I love the posts and I would buy them again. Okay, now that the job's over, I'm looking for a new home for my Dartmouth assembly fixture. If anybody'd like to have this to do their project, let me know.